Hi, aren't you all beautiful? It's handheld week. I got all these handhelds holding my hands. I actually did not want to make a video like this, but I'm going to do it anyways. Today we're going to look at a 10.5 inch handheld tablet with a very confusing configuration and some really interesting ideas and an implementation that's raw. It's not finished yet. This thing is not finished. And the people who made it have been really cool and really helpful, but this thing needs to go back into the oven. I use OEM keys for a few different reasons. This is the price you're going to pay for Windows 11 Pro if you get a retail key. Let's check those prices on whokeys.com. $30, no, we can do better. Put in TS25, click apply. There we go, $23.22. Let's say you want to get a copy of Windows 10 Pro. I also have Windows 10 Pro, and right now that key still unlocks Windows 11. You can get Windows 10 Home, Windows 11 Home, and we have two flavors of Office. If you're sick of paying that monthly subscription, well, you can get yourself an offline version of Office 2019 or Office 2016. The other thing is OEM keys are generally locked to your hardware, so if you move it from one motherboard to another, you may need to get another key, but you'll have to get many keys to equal the price of one retail key. Let's go ahead and check out with our copy of Windows 11 Pro. All right, just put in my card info. There we go. Click on View Keys and Codes. Once you get to the User Center, click on Get the Key. You'll see your key right here in the middle. Go ahead and highlight that, copy that, press Start, and then type Activate. You'll see Activation Settings. Go ahead and click on that. And then right here it says Not Active. Just click on Change Product Key. Paste in our product key, and then click on Activate. Hey, look at that, active. Head over to whokeys.com, thanks to them for sponsoring, and now on to our regularly scheduled program. This is the Piccolo G-Series1, and the configuration we have is 16 gigabytes of DDR4, and we also have a M.2 on the inside, 512 gigabytes for our version, and the brand on this is not Kingston, King Sand. I think that's actually kind of a cool name when you think about it, because, sand, silicon, King Sand, King Sand. So that's all I'm going to say. It works just fine. I don't know. I've never used a King Sand before, but that's what it's got on the inside. Anyway, the rest of the specs, let's go through those. And then we're going to talk about what's going on with this unit and why I'm just not fully sure that this is ready for everybody. So it's got the Intel N95, and that has 4 cores, 4 threads. They're all efficiency cores. These are some low power cores, but that's kind of all you need for a lot of indie gaming and old school retro gaming. Modern games, 3D games, not going to cut it. Max Turbo one, that's 3.4 gigahertz. It also has the Intel UHD graphics on the inside. Even like a lot of modern games like Fortnite, maybe you can get by with cranking it down to like low, but I wouldn't want to do it. It's not really a gaming chip in my opinion. Then we have 4800 speed DDR4. The max is 32. This one comes with 16. The storage, you can get up to 2 terabytes. This one has 512. And then we have an IPS touchscreen, 1920 by 1200. That's an interesting choice, again, because a lot of the games that you're going to be playing are either going to be 16 by 9 or 4 by 3 if you're playing like console style games. But since this is running Windows 11 Home, I've swapped it out for Pro, well, you can play just about all your games in 16 by 10 ratio, which I much prefer. So for PC gaming, as long as your game will support custom resolutions, or as long as your game supports 16 by 10 or just, modern stuff, then it works just fine. And a lot of the indie games that I tried out do support. You've got an integrated 2 megapixel web camera. So if you were somewhere and you wanted to stream, I guess you could stream like an indie game on kind of low quality, as long as it's not taxing your stuff too much. You got dual band Wi-Fi, Bluetooth 4.2, which is okay for controllers and stuff, but I wouldn't recommend it for headphones or anything. So let's talk about what makes this special, and you've obviously been looking at it. It's got a joystick attached to it, and they're attached just like Joy-Cons. They pop out. There's a little button on the bottom of each one, and they slide in and out. They feel a lot like Joy-Cons. They're kind of lightweight, which is probably a good thing because this entire thing can be a bit heavy in your hands. It's actually really thick as well, like way thicker than I would have expected for a tablet with these specs. But yeah, it's got a lot of thickness going on right there. Then we have one USB 3 port up on top. We've got our mic and headphone jack. We have a mini HDMI port and USB-C. And then over here on the other side, we also have SD card right there. The battery in this is 5,000 milliamp hours, good for a few hours of play. If we're going to have this much space, why are there not more ports? Now, I know this is a handheld gaming console, but I think it would be really cool to have one extra USB Type A port. That way, if you're like playing multiplayer games with your friends, you can both plug up like an Xbox controller or a Fennec wireless controller or a PlayStation controller or something. You can both have the same controller instead of one person using the USB Type A and the other person using these Joy-Cons, which would effectively become the Mad Cats in that situation. Even though these feel pretty good, I think you'd want to compete with the same the same joystick, right? Or the same controller. I don't want to have to carry around a hub and plug up a USB-C hub or a USB-A hub to get a whole bunch of controllers. It can be done. It's not the biggest deal, but it would be cool if they had maybe 1 or 2 more ports. That brings me to my next thing. This does not have a full-size HDMI port, even though there is so much room for it. It has mini HDMI, and I talk through my teeth about it because I hate mini HDMI. It shouldn't exist. There's only 2 types of HDMI that should exist. HDMI and nothing. All right, maybe you can have micro HDMI because a lot of cameras are so small and a lot of like these little handhelds are so small. Maybe a micro HDMI would be just fine. But nowadays you can get USB-C to HDMI. And if you have a USB-C port that can handle it, that'll be just fine. That's all you need. So just do that and make it USB-C to HDMI if you want something small. But on something that's this big, just put a full-size HDMI on there and don't make me go shopping for weird cables that only have one use case. That's so annoying. I hate mini HDMI. Micro HDMI can live, I guess. But yeah, I feel like it shouldn't exist. It's always a nuisance dealing with this. I had to order a cable because I couldn't find my other one. So let's talk about my experience with this unit. When I first got it, I turned it on and it booted right into Windows, logged me right in as admin. And I was like, okay, maybe that's just because they sent me a demo unit, but I asked them and they said that it would be just like mine. When you buy this, it signs itself on as an admin and goes straight into the account, which makes me feel weird. So after it just like automatically logged me into Windows, I was like, oh hell no. I'm going to go ahead and do a recovery and just completely reset this. And that's where the second oh hell no comes in. The recovery console is not available. I don't know what version of Windows they use. I guess does Windows Home not have recovery console? If that's the case, I didn't know that. That's really weird, but I can't run a recovery or reset my machine. Normally with Windows, you can just do like a system reset and tell it to clear everything and do like a fresh install of Windows, but that option was not available. I had to get a USB stick and completely reinstall Windows from scratch and wipe the entire drive, which is probably what you should do if you're going to be crazy enough to buy this. But then you'll need drivers, and there's no drivers on their website, which brings me to point number exhibit 17B. Put drivers on your website. New companies, what are you doing? Drivers on the website. Many PC companies, tablet companies, drivers, put them on your website. So I had to message and I got a BAT file and a bunch of files and stuff. And I clicked the BAT file and it ran a script and it installed all the drivers. You know, I can do it because I'm reviewing this unit or whatever. And I'm talking directly to them, but I don't expect a customer to be running BAT files to install drivers. That's weird. So people need a way to recover their machine. They need drivers. So put them on your websites, please. Everybody. All right, let's keep on going with the video. After it's all connected, it feels really good to me. The analog sticks are a little light. They're almost too easy to move, but they have a lot of travel distance and they feel pretty good overall. And there's no like snapping or anything weird like that. They just work quite well. And then all the buttons feel good and premium in my opinion. I like the buttons. The D-pad has good click to it. I don't have really any complaints with that. The L and R buttons feel good. The analog on the back again is also perhaps not strong enough, I guess. It's a little soft or a little easy to press down, but it works. It's analog and they work just fine. And then we have our buttons on the back, extra buttons, why not? So all in all, I think these feel great and they work whether they're plugged up or unplugged. So what's weird about them is you do have some menu buttons here that work in Windows to bring up your menu options and stuff, but there's not a button that would work as like your home button, like on your Xbox controller, your PlayStation controller, or even your Fennec controller. If you have one of those, you have a button on the middle that is like your home button. And that's very handy when you're playing emulators, RetroArch and stuff like that to be able to press the home button. So I would like to see one of those. That's kind of weird. All right, let's go into the next thing about this, and that is just the overall gameplay performance. You can play indie games, retro games. When I say indie games, I mean like not, double, triple I indie games or whatever, not the really fancy graphics ones. You can play games without crazy graphics. That's the bottom line. Yeah, 3D stuff, no. PlayStation 2, maybe. The GameCube ran okay, but I wouldn't even want to play Simu on this. I wouldn't even want to, that's Wii U stuff. I would not play Switch. It just won't work at all, pretty much. It's too slow for that. So when it comes to emulation, GameCube, PS2, that kind of stuff can be okay. And then pretty much everything in the past, like Dreamcast and everything, should work just fine on this. I like to use these times to recommend some new indie games. And I've been checking out this game called Fountains, made by one person, John Pywell. Now, Fountains looks a lot like Hyper Light Drifter to me, and it feels a lot like Hyper Light Drifter, maybe mixed with a little bit of Dark Souls or Elden Ring or just a Souls-like type game. But it feels so good. I started playing this to like goof around and just see how this ran. The combat in this game feels really good. Maybe better than Hyper Light Drifter, and it's made by one person. Extremely impressive in my opinion. Maybe a little bit too close to some of those games. And I'll say this, if you're going to check this game out, don't go online and read a whole bunch of meta. Just experience it. You don't want to spoil things for yourself. And I haven't gotten that far into it, and I just heard, other people were telling me that, like, hey, don't go online and read the tutorials and look at the meta and everything. You're going to spoil things. Just go through it yourself. So I would recommend playing Fountains, and it ran great on this, and I ended up spending a lot of time playing on this. Anyway, the sound is pretty good for the size, but it kind of makes sense when you realize that this thing is as thick as 2 or 3 regular tablets. I mean, like, I can stack up like 3 Android tablets and it still wouldn't be as thick as this. So you think, well, maybe it's nice and thick because they've got a bunch of cooling going on. Well, yeah, they've got some cooling, but here's the thing. It is loud. Like, if I turn this on an airplane and started playing it while we're sitting on the tarmac, people are going to buckle up their seatbelts because they're going to think we're taking off prematurely. So it's really loud. And the thing about that is that it doesn't stay on all the time, which would be just fine, I think, because once I turned up the volume and everything, I just kind of like became a background hum or whatever whenever I was playing a game that's somewhat demanding. But if you're playing a game that's not that demanding, what happens is the fans kick on and they're like and really loud, and then they just turn right off. So there's this constant on and off. I asked about a fan curve or something, and they said maybe coming in future updates into the BIOS or whatever. But it needs that. Like, it should have had that before it released, because the fan, if I just set this on my desk and walk away and it's still turned on, or it's like just chilling or doing something, it'll continue to do that. And I found myself, I was like sitting on my desk and it was powered on. I found myself walking around the room and then getting annoyed and coming over and sleeping it. Sure, we'll zoom in. Let's have a look at our regular suite of benchmarks right here. We'll do Valley next. So we've got Geekbench, single core score 1162, and the multi-core is 2738. I mean, we're not going to be, breaking into the Pentagon with this thing or solving, some ridiculous equations, but it'll get the job done for some basic stuff. OpenCL score 3174. I'll scroll down so you can see all of the tests. There you go. Now let's have a look at Cinebench R23. The single core is not bad. Take a look at that. That's how it stacks up. 912. For an efficiency core, I find that pretty good. And then multi-core. So after all, it is 4 efficiency cores. So down there at the bottom. I want to like this because it's cool having something this big. It's a little heavy, a little bulky, a little weird. The screen looks fine. It's an IPS, like I said. But I don't know. For this price, and for this, as big as it is, I would expect it to be a little bit faster. I know they're working on an AMD one. That could be way more interesting in my opinion. So they said like a AMD Ryzen G-Series, that would be really, really interesting. But right now, as it is, this tiny little device can run circles around it. Let me show you the size difference here. This is like half the price, and it's got an OLED screen, and it runs circles around this. If you're wondering what this is the Retroid Pocket 5 Mini, or the Pocket Mini, I forget what it's called, Pocket 5 Mini, I don't know. I'll be doing a video on this pretty soon too. But yeah, so if you want something small, that one's good. If you want something big and you want a big tablet, I don't know, this is cool. I guess. I mean, if everything was perfect, I would still say hold off until they figure out something with the fans, because it's really annoying. It's close, but this product should not be on the shelves yet. It's almost ready. I feel like this is a cool prototype that they need to work on, hone in some features and details, and then swap out the CPU, swap out the ports, make it something different. I don't know. We'll see what happens with their next products. All right, anyway, this is the Piccolo G-Series 1, 10.5-inch handheld tablet, PC, gaming PC. What? Tablet PC, gaming PC? Yes. All right, I'll see you all in the comments.